Buff God Goku, a hashtag that was very popular during the 6th anniversary as Legends Limited God Goku's release did not satisfy the overwhelming majority of Dragon Ball Legends players. Over social media, especially Twitter, Dragon Ball Legends fans continuously post hashtag Buff God Goku in hopes of getting the developers to see that he is underwhelming and deserves to be treated better than the way they designed his kit. Half a year later, closing in on the start in 2025, God Goku gets his platinum equipment, and then he began performing at a literal premium level, looking how he should have looked during the 6th anniversary alongside those crazy units that we got. However, he's not the first occurrence of this. We've had two similar events to this, one a bit crazier than the other. In the 5th anniversary, we had the buff of Gold Frieza, where the developers genuinely went out their way to change the kit. They didn't drop an equipment or Zenkai them, they changed the kit post-release, which is very rarely done. But it's the biggest occurrence of it we've had in the game, and one other occurrence in the 3rd anniversary, which was the start of the platinum equipments, Legends Limited Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. We know the developers have a very large bias when it comes to Fusion Warriors and Gohan specifically. So in this case, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta performing at the same level as half-corrupted Zamasu, if not slightly worse, was very devastating for the perception of the 3rd anniversary. As a result, they released the platinum equipment soon after. So what other units would we like to see get this type of treatment? The God Goku treatment. Let's get into this. So if you haven't guessed it, this video is made in response to Legends Limited Metal Cooler, because how the hell did they fumble a unit with 2 comebacks, 3 lives, purple as well, in a meta like this where Frieza is dominating the game, the Ultra Final Form Frieza? How the hell do you mess this up? And I know how they did, but still how? If you're unaware of how they would mess this up, the developers have a genuine trend of overvaluing new mechanics, especially when it's not on Fusion Warriors, which is super backwards. Using Super Vegito gets the Rising Rush mechanic, and he's free to nuke anybody whenever he wants. Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, he gets the counter, and he can just counter all over the place. Ultra Gogeta Blue, it's futile whenever you're ready, but you get a unit that's not a Fusion Warrior, drop a new mechanic on them, and all of a sudden they're undertuned. It's really disrespectful in a way. They've done this a lot with revival units. Because they value the idea of having a second life, what they would do is undertune the unit in other ways, whether it means giving them literally no offenses, whether it means giving them less defenses, so you have to invest in them more, or add more equipments that are specific for defenses. You have to overcompensate for one side, and you basically lose out on the other side because they wanted to add this new mechanic and they felt it was very dangerous, so then they downplay everything else so it doesn't make an overwhelming unit in Dragon Ball Legends, which to a degree is actually understandable, because if Metal Cooler had great defenses, he would control the game for the next 2 years potentially, unless they dropped another toxic unit, maybe even an Ultra Margin Vegeta 2.0, and how would that unit even function? Someone that can override comebacks, somebody that can override revivals as well. It would probably do all of that under the sun, which makes Metal Cooler the spawn for an even greater problem, and I think that's something they wanted to avoid, as they've done that in the past. If you guys are unaware, Ultra Margin Vegeta is a key example when they dropped him to further the countering of Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. So in a way, they're trying to avoid the problems that they created in the past, but at the same time, they drop a premium unit at this level, who in a lot of people's eyes is easily the worst premium unit they might have ever dropped, and in this state, this modern level of Dragon Ball Legends, it's truly unacceptable. So as a solution, he would just need stats. He doesn't even need offenses, but if his main thing is to have 3 lives, 2 comebacks, you would hope that he has the defenses to come along with that. Otherwise, he's just gonna get one-shotted 3 times and he's not actually doing anything on the battlefield. He's more of a traffic cone than anything, when he should be a literal brick wall. They should look at Garlic Jr.'s design, because that sparking is built very amazingly, and if they copy that and build Metal Cooler in that same way, they don't even have to give him extra HP. They don't have to give him extra combo breaking or anything like that. Just the simple ability to tank more, and it would make his 3 lives, the 2 comebacks, a lot more effective on the battlefield. I know a lot of you guys are not going to be happy that I'm mentioning him in this video, but SSBE Vegeta, we have to be very honest here. He's literally the main premium purple that released during the 7th anniversary, and he's done nothing to help towards the countering of Ultra Final Form Frieza. In our time of need, we need a purple, and who other than the purple that dropped in the 7th anniversary, but literally nobody's calling for him, and that's honestly sad. But looking at his kit, he looks just like how they did God Goku. They had a little nice idea going, but then they don't give him enough stats, and then just down the line further, they put him in a worse scenario. It's very apparent that Ultra Super Saiyan Goku exists, who's going to destroy SSBE Vegeta, but on top of that, they also went ahead and gave a buff to Ultra Super Vegito. Very unnecessary in my opinion, but you know they can't go at anniversary without Vegito showing up in one way, shape or form. So even if you take him out and we somehow only get one Ultra, so let's just say it's Final Form Frieza, Vegeta is type advantage, but he's still not a good option to get over him. We can also take USV out, but he still wouldn't be a good option. So they got the idea with his kit down, but they didn't give him the stats or really any functionality to live long term. A lot of people would cope for him. Again, he's one of those units that require high star levels or high investment, and even then you can do the same amount of work with a lot less stars. Especially in part 1, you would have seen the difference with MUI Goku. So it's just very unfortunate. So what do I want with this guy? Well, if he's not going to get good offenses, which they will give him if he gets a plat, mainly I think they should give him survivability, the ability to cancel buffs. I would love that from SSBE Vegeta, and it actually makes sense. Considering he does a final explosion, he should have the ability to live a bit more than UI Goku. They gave both of them endurance and no buff cancellation, but at least UI Goku has his gauge to dodge. But I feel like with SSBE, they just left him hanging. They didn't give him anything else to compensate in regards to surviving on the battlefield. Also, in regards to the Sparkings, Kale and Caulifla, they're half yellow. That makes it even harder for this guy to move in PvP because he's color counted immediately. Then on the other side, they drop Kaba for Vegeta, but he's red, type disadvantage against MUI Goku. It's really the worst scenario for the pair that works with Vegeta versus the pair with Goku, Kale and Caulifla. And that's really sad. You can see it very apparently now looking in hindsight. So give him the buff cancellation, and that balances him out with the same way that UI Goku also has endurance, but he has his gauge. Give SSBE the ability to cancel buffs at least. And then if they just raised his stats and maybe made his gauge feel a bit faster, it would actually be useful because he only nullifies endurance at level 3, and it feels like you never get to that point. So overall, he's just disappointing, but he has a lot of potential. Potential man of heaven and hell, honestly. Next up, we've got Super Saiyan Goku, the instant transmission Super Saiyan Goku. Now for this guy, I don't think they need to do much to him. So even saying he needs a God Goku level platinum equipment might be underplaying him, but I do think he needs a buff in some way, shape or form. I think at least it should help him defensively, and I don't think he needs anything in regards to mechanics. It's mainly just about keeping him alive so he can do what he does. The intention behind this instant transmission Goku's kit is for him to be a vanished merchant, get green cards and play the explosive green. He has his ultimate which can lock the enemy in, so he's meant to be the rat type of character, but on the defensive end he's a complete liability, while on the offensive end he's not even guaranteed to give you results that you need. People have been very desperate, and to counter Ultra Final Form Frieza, they've been looking for a purple, and this guy's been one of those units that have been brought up in the talks, but in reality he's not that guy, pal. He would be a lot more useful even if his damage was the same and he could stay alive on the battlefield, but in a lot of cases whenever he's on the battlefield he's a complete liability because he will get one shot. Even that half health combo break isn't helping you, so very much so he's disappointing. So just give him better defenses. I think that would aid him a lot, and I'm talking defenses maybe on the level of Kaioken Goku from the 7th anniversary. He already has one combo break, he doesn't need more than that, but that will allow him to at least stand in PvP. And if they wanted to go the extra mile, give him potential to heal. So if he gets the half health, he heals 30%, but I think it should just be all the way back to 100 to be honest. This Goku had Senzus on him, he's only healing 30%, give him all he needs, man. But any adjustment to his kit would definitely be overkill, as we could easily have a second coming of Ultra Margin Vegeta. It wouldn't be exactly the same because there isn't any endurance, survivability in general to be honest, but the main thing I'm pointing out is that he locks in with his ultimate. But with the points I've raised, it's keeping his offenses pretty much the same, as I don't think they're that bad, but defensively he's for sure a liability. So Demon King Piccolo, earlier this year we saw an increase in his damage guard. They literally already buffed him, and it's just not enough. And I don't even know if I should talk about him, because to say he needs a God Goku level platinum equipment might even be an understatement, because if they already buffed him and it wasn't enough, he's gonna need a lot more. I see what they tried to do on paper, you know, they tried to make him the Rise and Rush gimmick guy, the Dragon Balls, yada yada yada. But man, how disappointing. I'm not even gonna layer in too heavy on him, but for sure he needs the stats. The damage guard increase they gave him just wasn't enough. 160, that's been power crept. He's coming like sparking Nappa. Come on, brother. We need to do better than this. And you knew you was gonna power creep him soon. Right before the anniversary, you drop DKP, then you go to the anniversary and increase the base level for damage guard, while also giving him an outsider buff like Gold Frieza. Yeah, alright. But he's a weird case, because I feel like if I give him anything else, he would be way too OP. So I'm gonna leave it at that. But I want to use this segment to really say we are in 2025 and they're still not balancing out and testing characters correctly to the point where they just correct things with platinum equipment. But it's really unfortunate if they mess that up too, because you're not going to get buffs for a character that you like. In my case, I don't worry about this too much, but depending on if you like something a bit more niche in interest, for example, the OG Dragon Ball characters, if they don't get a good release, you're not seeing another one for like 5 years. And that's very depressing. You're playing this game, saving your Chrono Crystals, trying to get your favorite character, and when they do release, they're basically unplayable. They get a buff, and the buff doesn't make them playable. And then from there, they're forgotten because they got other things to release in their schedule. And I think that's very upsetting. But for these units that I mentioned, I do think they deserve some sort of buff. If they're not in this video, at least for the 2025 premium releases, it's not necessary to buff them in my opinion. I think they do their job well enough. Like one that I might sneak in here is Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, but I feel like his damage numbers were really good, just not consistent, but you have to work towards that. So at least you can make him look dangerous if you know what you're doing. But in other cases, it's not that, like the characters I mentioned, and in other cases, it's that again. For example, Fusion Zamasu. You build him with intention and he's going to be Hall of Fame brick wall. I compare him to Kaioken Goku. I think they're basically the same thing, just Fusion Zamasu is definitely toned down by comparison, given he released earlier in the year. Let's just hope going further down the line, they drop some better units in regards to how they play in PvP. But yeah, man, that's going to make the end of the video. I only spoke on premium units, so maybe there's some sparkings you want buffed. But me personally, I'm not going to go that far in this video, as for the most part, a lot of you guys are only interested in the premium units, Legends Limiteds and Ultras. At least with all three Ultras, Ultra Perfect Cell, Ultra Super Saiyan Goku, and Ultra Final Form Frieza, which is a bit excessive with him, but they hit the mark with those three, and they're actually feeling like Ultras. You summon on them, if you get them, you would get your Chrono Crystals worth. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button. We're on this grind to 200,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name is Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.